The first sign something was wrong came with the Christmas lights. Not a burned-out bulb or a faulty wire, but the way they blinked. Not the cheerful, rhythmic pulse I was used to, but a frantic, desperate flicker. I remember standing on the frosty lawn, my breath fogging in the December air, staring up at the house. It was like the old Victorian was trying to send me a warning, a Morse code message from a world of shadows. But I brushed it off. It was Christmas Eve, after all, the season of joy, not jitters. My family, the Andersons, had rented this grand old house for the holidays. My parents, my older sister Clara, and me, Leo. We wanted a picture-perfect Christmas, straight out of a postcard. The house, with its snow-dusted gables and sprawling porches, seemed to promise just that. Inside, a magnificent fir tree stood in the living room, its branches heavy with ornaments collected over a lifetime. The air smelled of pine needles and my mom's gingerbread cookies. It was perfect. Almost too perfect. That night, after a massive dinner and a round of carols that felt strangely hollow in the vast, high-ceilinged rooms, we all went to bed. I was excited, the way any 16-year-old pretends not to be, about the presents waiting under the tree. But as I lay in the antique four-poster bed, sleep wouldn't come. A strange chill had settled in the room, a cold that had nothing to do with the winter outside. It seeped from the walls, from tedart polished wood of the furniture. Then I heard it, a soft, scratching sound. It came from inside the closet. Scratch, scratch, pause, scratch, scratch, pause. My heart hammered against my ribs. I told myself it was a mouse, or the old house settling. But the sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic. I pulled the thick duvet up to my chin, my eyes glued to the ornate closet door. The scratching stopped. Silence flooded the room, heavier and more menacing than the noise it replaced. I must have drifted off, because the next thing I knew, a faint melody was drifting up the staircase. It was a Christmas carol, but twisted and distorted, as if played on a broken music box. The tune was Silent Night, but the notes were sour, discordant, dragging the beloved melody into something unsettling. I slipped out of bed, my feet cold on the hardwood floor, and crept to my door. I peeked into the hallway. It was bathed in an eerie, pulsing red and green light from the decorations downstairs. The music box carol was louder here. I tiptoed to the top of the grand staircase and looked down. What I saw made the blood freeze in my veins. The living room was a scene of chaos. Ornaments were smashed on the floor, glittering like broken jewels. Tinsel was torn and scattered. The presents, our carefully wrapped gifts of love and anticipation, were ripped to shreds. Wrapping paper and ribbons lay in a mangled heap, and in the center of the destruction, by the darkened fireplace, stood a figure. It was tall and unnervously thin, draped in what looked like a tattered, dirty Santa Claus suit. Its back was to me. It was hunched over, its movements jerky and unnatural. It was humming along to the distorted carol, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the floorboards. My first instinct was to scream, to wake my parents, to wake Clara. But a primal fear paralyzed me. I couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. The figure slowly turned its head, and even from the top of the stairs I could see its face in the dim, flickering light. It wasn't a face at all. It was a smooth, porcelain mask, like a doll's, but cracked and stained with age. Two empty, black holes were where the eyes should have been. A painted-on smile was stretched into a grotesque, permanent grin. It saw me. I don't know how, with no eyes, but I felt its gaze lock onto me. The humming stopped, the head tilted, a gesture of unnerving curiosity. Then it raised a long, spindly finger and beckoned me. "Come down!" The invitation was silent, but it screamed in my mind. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked behind me. A spoon around my heart, leaping into my throat. It was Clara, her eyes wide with terror, her hand clamped over her mouth. She had seen it too. Her presence broke the spell. We didn't need to speak. We backed away from the stairs, slowly, quietly, our eyes never leaving the horrifying figure below. We scrambled back into my room and locked the door. Clara was shaking uncontrollably. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I breathed, pressing my ear against the door. The house had fallen silent again. The music box was gone. There was no humming, no movement. Just a crushing, expectant silence. We stayed huddled in my room for what felt like an eternity, waiting for the dawn. We heard our parents stirring around sunrise. We burst out of the room, shouting, trying to explain the terror of the night. We dragged them downstairs, expecting them to see the wreckage, the proof of our horror. But the living room was immaculate. The trees stood tall and proud, every ornament in place. The presents were nestled beneath its branches, perfectly wrapped and untouched. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon. There was no broken glass, no torn paper. It was as if nothing had happened. My parents looked at us with a mixture of confusion and concern. They thought we'd had a shared nightmare, a hallucination brought on by the strange old house and too much Christmas pudding. They didn't believe us. How could they? The evidence was gone. But Clara and I knew what we saw. Throughout Christmas Day, we were on edge. Every shadow seemed to move. Every creak of the old house made us jump. We tried to act normal, opening presents and smiling for photos, but the cheer felt forced, a fragile veneer over our shared terror. The porcelain mask with its empty eyes was burned into my memory. As evening fell, my dad decided to light a fire in the grand fireplace. He knelt, crumpled up some old newspaper, and reached deep inside the hearth to clear away some soot. His hand brushed against something. He pulled it out. It was a small, dusty object, a single, old-fashioned sleigh bell on a faded leather strap. As I held it up, it let out a faint, toneless jingle, and from deep within the chimney, a soft, scratching sound began. Scratch, scratch, pause, then a faint, discordant melody started up again. Silent Night played on a broken music box. It was coming from the chimney. My dad dropped the bell as if it had burned him. We all stared at the fireplace, at the deep, black throat of the chimney, as the scratching grew louder, closer. And from the darkness, a low, guttural humming began to echo, a sound of ancient hunger and malevolent cheer. We weren't having a nightmare. Our Christmas guest had just been waiting, and this time we knew it wasn't here for the cookies. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this Christmas fright, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Tales from the Shadows. Stay safe and have a very, very careful holiday season.